This is Faith Encouraged with Father Barnabas Powell. Homilies designed to help you live a purposeful and faith-filled life in Jesus Christ. Here's Father Barnabas.
You may not be able to tell it, but I am not what you would call the outdoorsy type. Just not my thing. My brother was the outdoorsy type. Fishing, hunting, all kinds of stuff. Not me. It's just not my thing. I always thought the outdoors were to hold the roads that drove you from one place to the other. That was what the outdoors were for. But I did go fishing one time. It was actually, I was in southern Louisiana on the bayou. And I was actually doing a series of meetings. This was when I was a Protestant pastor. I was doing a series of meetings in this area of Louisiana. And one of the guys who was a member of the church was a world-famous fishing guide. And he said, I want to take you fishing with you and a couple of friends. I want you to go fishing with me. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, I'm not very good at it. He said, don't worry. I am a world-renowned fishing guide. Anybody who goes out with me catches fish. Doesn't matter. So we get up entirely too early in the morning and get on a boat and go into the bayou. And this guy was right, except for me. Everybody else on the boat, they throw their line in the water. 5 seconds later, boom, they got a bite, pull a fish in. I'm drowning bait by the tons. Not even a nibble, not even a little tug on the end of the line. About an hour into the fishing trip, the guide is getting apoplectic. He's going bananas. He's seeing his reputation go down the river and just go bye-bye. He said, I don't know what it is. I said, brother, please. I put my arm around him. I said, for heaven's sake, don't worry about this. I'm a fisher of men, not a fisherman. This is the story of our gospel lesson today. I love both the epistle lesson and the gospel lesson because it gives us a powerful insight into the very nature of the task that you and I, if we're going to be authentic followers of Jesus Christ, if we're going to take seriously the fact that we call ourselves Christian. In fact, I remember last week I asked on the daily radio program, I asked, why are you Christian? And then I ask, why are you Orthodox? Why? Why are you Orthodox? Why are you a Christian? Why are you Orthodox? Oh, I was raised that way, or I was born into an Orthodox home. Wonderful, fantastic. That's fantastic. By the way, there's no such thing as somebody born Orthodox. It doesn't happen, never has happened, never will happen. You can't be born Orthodox. You can be born in an Orthodox home and be given a ton of advantages and a ton of head starts, but nobody's born Orthodox, folks. Everybody gets baptized. Did you know that? Everybody gets baptized. Whether you come into the Orthodox faith from the earliest days you remember, or you convert to the faith, nobody's ever born Orthodox. You become Orthodox, and you keep on becoming Orthodox until one day you're Orthodox. And that's the whole journey of our precious faith. But why are you Orthodox? Why are you Christian? Habit? Good habit. That's a good habit. By the way, good habits are a good thing. Don't ever throw rocks at good habits. Those are good things. That's a wonderful thing. But Jesus in our gospel lesson today confronts some men whom he's going to specifically make fishers, not just fishermen. That's what their trade was. They were fishers of men. That's what he was going to make them. And he calls these men, he calls Peter, and Peter drops everything he's doing. He quits his job and goes and follows this itinerant Jewish preacher. And then Jesus finds the two other brothers, the sons of Zebedee. By the way, Zebedee means sons of thunder. They were great preachers, by the way. That's why I like these two guys, James and John. And so he sees these two guys, and they're fishing. They're in the boat with their dad, Zebedee. And they're mending their nets. They're working. And Jesus says, come follow me. And what do? See you, Dad. Bye. We're going to go follow this itinerant preacher around. Thanks a lot, boys. But that's what they do. And because they understand there's something significant going on here. And so how is it that a person who is a fisherman can become a fisher of men? Well, there are three basic understandings of what it means to be a fisher of men. By the way, that's what we all are. The first requirement to be a good fisher of men is to have the right bait. Now, I'm no fisherman. My grandfather was a fisherman, and he would tell me about, he would have all of these, maybe you've seen this, maybe you've even done this. He'd have this tackle box. It was huge. It was like a toolbox, for heaven's sake. And he opened it up, and there were about 15 or 20 different drawers, and every one of them had different lures. And it was amazing, and he would explain to me, now this lure catches this fish, and that lure catches that fish, and if I use live bait, this is what I'm fishing for, and if I'm using a spinner, then this is what I'm looking for. So to be a fisher of men, you have to have the right bait. Well, what is the right bait? Well, look at what the gospel says. The gospel says that Jesus went declaring good news and healing diseases and setting men and women free. The right bait, brothers and sisters, if we're going to truly be fishers of men, if this is going to be a wonderful fishing vessel where we're going to gather in all of those who are hungry to be filled with the grace of God, we must understand that the right bait has everything to do with loving people and offering them the lifestyle of freedom that gives them the liberty to become who they were created to be. That's good news. This society nowadays is filled with tons of self-help books. Wonderful things. I've always found them to be good for about 15 or 20 minutes in my life. And then I need another self-help book to help build me up after the last self-help book I read. But what is the pattern of lifestyle that encourages men and women to live lives of peaceful joy? What is that pattern of life? I would argue, ladies and gentlemen, that it is the precious, unchanged, 20 centuries old Orthodox Christian faith that creates a pattern of freedom in my life that allows me to become who I was created to be. That is the bait that we offer men and women as we become fishers of men. The second thing that we must do if we're going to be fishers of men, we must not only have the right bait, but we must also be willing to go where the fish are. When I was on this fishing trip, the guide was just pulling the boat this way and that. Well, okay, and I would even throw, this is so embarrassing. You're not allowed to tell this to anybody else. This has got to stay between us. I almost want to tell John to turn the camera off so nobody else finds out about this. I would throw my line in the very spot where somebody just pulled out a fish. Nothing. You've got to be wise enough and attentive enough to the society that you're in to know where the fish are. One of the most amazing statistics I learned just recently, did you know in the United States of America that this year over 1 million people will quit going to church? This year. Over 1 million people will stop being connected to a Christian church in the United States. Gang, that's not a sustainable number if we expect to have any kind of credibility as people who say we believe eternal truths. And so we must begin to understand our society, our age, our time so well that we know where the fish are. What is it about the Orthodox Christian faith that lures and draws men and women? What was it that drew you? What is it that keeps you? Why are you here? That gives you the insight as to why this faith is so effective in, for 20 centuries, making men and women like Jesus Christ. And that's the whole point of this faith. So, not only must we have the right bait, not only must we go where the fish are, but we must become willing to work to bring the fish home. I saw a YouTube video, you may have seen it. They were fishing, and this poor boy, they were apparently fishing for big fish. They had this big rod, long rod and very strong line. And this guy's fighting for hours. I mean, thank God they had it on time lapse. I've never watched it all. But this guy was fighting for hours. And the pole is almost bent double, almost touching the water, for heaven's sake. This is how big this fish was. He's getting closer and closer to the boat. He's yanking it. He's pulling on it. He's got friends that are helping him pull it in over and over again. This guy's breaking a sweat. I mean, this fellow was working to bring this fish home. And all of a sudden, as he starts coming out of the water, you see this huge tail flap the water. And the guy's eyes got this big around, and he drops the rod. Scared him to death. If we're going to be truly fishers of men, we cannot give up when the work gets hard. We can't give up when it gets tough. We can't give up when it's hard to stay faithful to the faith. When we live in a society, a society that is increasingly hostile to the timeless message of the Orthodox Christian faith. Increasingly hostile to the moral teachings of the Orthodox Christian faith. Increasingly hostile to the notion that marriage isn't about just a contract between two consenting adults, but is actually a sacramental mystery meant to create the character of a man and a woman committed into a lifelong relationship to raise children to know God as well. That is not a popular idea of marriage nowadays. It's not a popular idea of moral society that men and women remain chaste until they are married. That's considered silly by the society that your children are being raised in. In a society where it is difficult to remain faithful to timeless truths, the challenge to not give up becomes absolutely necessary if we are going to be faithful fishers of men. I want to challenge you this morning, because the fact of the matter is, for 20 centuries, that is what the Orthodox Christian faith has been about doing. Offering the good news of the faith to men and women to bring them home so that they could become by grace what Christ is by nature. We are not free to change these ancient foundation stones. We are called to remain faithful so that having the right bait, knowing where the fish are, and being willing to stick with it till we're done, we will provide a faithful witness to our children so that they too can continue this faith after you and I are gone. Brothers and sisters, you are never in your life going to do anything more important than that. Not a thing. I don't care what size house you buy. I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care what kind of education you have. I don't care where you go, what you do, who you know. I don't care what kind of fame you achieve in this life. You will never do anything more vital, more important than preserve a robust Orthodox faith for the children that follow you to hold. You'll never do another thing more important in your life. You'll never do another thing more important than invest in the growth and the preservation of this timeless faith. You never will, because everything else that you do will rot and burn and go to somebody else. This treasure alone is going to be with you for eternity. Be wise. Become a fisher of men.
Father Barnabas is the priest at the Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene Greek Orthodox Church in Cumming, Georgia. Find out more at faithencouraged.org. That's faithencouraged.org.